Redditors who grew up with strict parents, what was the most absurd rule you had to live by? My mom once kicked me out of the house for being gay and I'm not even gay. If I farted it was 2 hours outside. Even in the freezing winter. One day I collapsed in the cold and was taken away from my mum after I was hospitalized 3 hours after collapsing. Then lived with my grandparents for the rest of my childhood and legally not allowed to see my mum until I was 18. Something less serious. My mom was paranoid everyone and everything was a kidnapper. She hated the mailman on our route. So, when I was young, 3, 4 years old, my mom told me it was illegal to be outside when the mail came. Around 11, 15 every day I'd see that truck coming. I'd hightail it inside the house. Terrified I would be spotted. Fast forward 30 years. I still genuinely feel a tinge of panic in the smallest recesses of the back of my brain when I see the mailman arrive. Only now it's overpowered by the excitement of my latest Amazon package I really don't need. Is your mom secretly a dog? Had to get home before the sun set. Even though I went to school an hour and a half away and would get home at the same time each day. But always found myself in trouble during winter. My stepdad typed up and printed a 5-page list of rules. He made me print, sign and date the last page. I was to be held accountable and if any rules were broken I had to move out. I wasn't a bad kid. The whole thing was to establish his dominance on me. I wasn't allowed to leave my room. I could go to the bathroom or kitchen but I better have a reason to be there. My stepdad was like this about the living room for some reason. Why are you in here? IDK I'm reading on the couch. Why? IDK go to your room you're grounded for 3 weeks. Smart ass goddamn mouth. Yeah. Just easier to confine after that happens a few times. My time to shine. No nail polish, no tight sundresses, no drinking tea, not allowed to watch anything with any cursing, had to call my parents sir and mom. Now they're upset that I call them this instead of mom and dad. But it's what they asked me to do. Bedtime of 9:30 until I was 18. Parents took my phone at 9 PM every night when I was in high school and read through all of my texts opening my bank statements, not a rule. But my parents would read my diary and go through my computer. And once left video cameras up while I was hanging out with a friend and talking. They loved to repeat things I had said or written to me. Just to let me know that I had no privacy in elementary school. My parents sat me down and said, we just want you to know. If you get pregnant while living with us we will kick you out. My parents gave my dog away while I was at school one day without telling me. I was 9. And these days they wonder why I never want to share anything with them or edit. My parents were horrible parents in general, but the most bizarre rule that my siblings and I put up with was that we weren't allowed to sneeze multiple times in a row. One sneeze? Fine. Another sneeze after some arbitrary number of minutes later? No problem. 2 sneezes in a row? Get yelled at for being unhygienic, even if you covered your nose mouth properly, and for having no manners. God forbid if you sneezed thrice or more in a row. I have seasonal allergies and one time, my dad was in a particularly bad mood and caught me in a sneezing fit and grounded me for a week. Nobody in my house was allowed to get the mail except my dad. Doesn't matter what time he got home. Leave the mail in the mailbox. He would also personally open all the mail no matter the recipient. He would always know if anyone touched it. Edit. We aren't in piles of debt. I am not Harry Potter. I think he just likes control. Loads of hidden debt. My parents were super laid back, but my mother's stepdad Larry could be a huge asshole. She told me that one morning. As a kid. She was given a chocolate covered donut and, as a kid will do, decided to start nibbling off the chocolate. Larry decided this pissed him the FCK off. And asked her promptly to stop eating the donut like that. Oh, just let her eat the donut how she once said. Mom's mom washing dishes. Kid mother continues to eat chocolate around the edges. Larry then shoots up shouting knock that off and F King pitches his morning cup of coffee across the kitchen where it explodes on the wall next to mom's mom. I'm thankful that Larry was not in my mother's life for long. Edit. If you're out there, Larry. FCKU. My parents were all over the place with strictness. When I was old enough to drive, my younger sister and I would drive to McDonald's. Just a few miles away. My parents would admonish us, whatever you do not eat french fries in the car. Full stop. Invariably. We would get home. They would run out, open the car doors, sniff, and start screaming at us for eating french fries in the car. We never did. Edit. Apparently nobody read those last 3 words, as I got a ton of messages saying, why did you horrible kids eat french fries in the car? Comma. So. Again. We never did. My mom used to not allow me to watch any movies that had magic in them. Jumanji was considered demonic. I didn't even see The Little Mermaid until I was 16. I didn't watch The Princess and the Frog until I had moved out. I was also banned from watching Harry Potter. I managed to sneak that in at the age of 20. Mom never caught me. Dad didn't give a care. Could never have my door shut because as a kid I don't pay any bills, so I'm not running anything around here. My mom and I didn't get along, and she did this count to 3 thing. I used to get in trouble for stuff I didn't do, so I got sent to my room a lot. I would then refuse to go there, so she came up with this rule where she would add an extra hour every time I talked back after she got to 3. I ended up spending 8 hours in my room once because my sister lied about me doing something. My mom tried something similar with me. She told me I would be grounded 1 day for every minute late I was home after curfew. It worked a couple times. When I was only a little late. One night, I checked the time and was already 20 minutes late. So I just came at 4:30 am. She did not ground me for 270 days. We came to a new, more reasonable agreement that morning. My parents weren't really strict, didn't have to be, but one of the dumbest rules I ever had to endure was I had to wear socks at all times. Because my stepdad hated me walking around with bare feet. It was only me. 2. My mom could be barefoot. My younger half brother could be barefoot. But I couldn't. To this day I f***ing hate wearing socks unless I have shoes on. Edit. Since a lot of people are asking the same questions, I'll respond here. No. My feet didn't stink, pretty sure, since I wasn't a very active kid growing up. I'd like to think my feet weren't ugly, but maybe. And I'm really hoping it wasn't because he had a foot fetish. But I suppose it's possible, haha. I wasn't allowed to swim in public swimming pools because I would catch AIDS. When my pay class would go to the pool 1 week a year, I had to walk laps around the pool because I couldn't participate. I couldn't brush my teeth after breakfast on school mornings. I had braces. And my mom wouldn't let me brush my teeth after breakfast in fear of us being late for school. I offered to make my own breakfast earlier in the morning in order to compensate, so I could get all the gunk out of my braces after eating. However, when I made my breakfast the next morning, she revoked my ride to school privilege. Had to ride my bike to school every day from then on. Luckily my school wasn't a long ride, but rainy days sucked. It was my punishment for being disobedient. We had to drink a glass of lemon juice right before bed. Pure, freshly squeezed lemon juice. A whole glass. Timer went on for 10 minutes. If it went off and you weren't finished, spanking. Set timer and repeat until the lemon juice is gone. I did okay. Maybe one spanking. But my sister has a terrible gag reflex, so she really got it bad. As you can imagine, being 5 and going to bed like that makes for some nasty heartburn, nausea. As a medical professional, do you get acid reflux nowadays? How about your siblings? Your parents may have caused GERD, which could lead to throat cancer. This is some pretty serious stuff. Go get your esophagus checked out. After I turned 9 I wasn't allowed to watch cartoons anymore. I hated my dad for it. I was raised religious and my mom invented a concept called microsinning. Home by 11, make it home at 10. 50 punished because it was too close to 11 and you're being defiant. My dad wouldn't let me go out. At all. The only time he would let me leave the house was to walk to school, and even then. He had to walk me to the entrance. Was teased for it all the time. Due to my isolated upbringing. I'm very socially awkward. And he wonders why I won't go out and find myself a partner. He never raised my sisters that way. Just me. He also wouldn't let me chew gum. He would flip out. He has physically pried my mouth open to take the gum out. He is such a bizarre, controlling man. If you didn't instantly say what you wanted to eat, my father would cook onions and garlic. He didn't like people wasting his time. My grandmother made me write out the encyclopedia entry on witchcraft when she found out I had read the first 4 Harry Potter books. If that counts. No one in the house was allowed to shave or have a razor at all. I could go to a barber or shave at a friend's house. But had my PC taken away when I tried at home. I still don't understand my mother's logic behind this one. I wasn't allowed to shave my legs. I guess my mom's thinking was that all the hair would serve as boy repellent. It wasn't necessary. Though. My personality was more than enough to keep you from getting laid. My mother would come home from work occasionally and say, I know you did something you weren't supposed to. Go to your room. You have 15 minutes to think about what you want to say. If you lie, you'll get double punishment. I would freak out and say anything I thought might be bad I did during the day. I watched TV and I wasn't supposed to. I forget my textbook at school. I made fun of a girl at school. I climbed a tree. Etc. She would ground me for a week and I would feel relieved it wasn't worse. F'd up thing is that she had no idea what bad thing I did. She just knew I would confess to anything and everything. Being raised religious, I always thought I was sinning. So this is a way for her to control me and ground me so she was comfortable with where I was when she had night shifts. I couldn't shave my legs until I was 16. I did when I was 12. Mum found out and grounded me. I had to ask to get a drink of anything or eat anything. Couldn't go anywhere unless my little brother could go with too, or if he had a play date. If he didn't have anyone to play with, then I couldn't either. We are 8 years apart. Edit. Thank you, kind stranger, for my first Reddit gold. I had dark hair. Everyone was shaving in 8th grade and mocking me. I still wasn't allowed to shave and my light-haired mom didn't understand why it was such a big deal. We used my dad's razor until he lost his shitty and made her buy us razors. My dad was raised with the idea that kids essentially have no opinion, which he passed on to my sister and I. If we were doing anything and he or my mom needed us to do something else, we were expected to immediately drop it and go do the other thing. Which doesn't sound that bad until I'd be in the middle of painting or something else messy. Be called to do dishes. Then in the middle of dishes be called to clean up the original mess. Then go to clean that up and be yelled at for not finishing dishes. And Lord help me if I said just a minute. Or anything of that ilk. When Nintendo, the original, first came out, my cousin got one for Christmas. We were poor so he brought it over so we could try it out. Nope. The new rule became no video games hooked up to the TV because it would ruin the TV. For your information, they still believe this to be true and still only have one TV. Could not watch Disney movies as a child because they showed kissing before marriage. Wasn't allowed to go to friends' houses or let them give me a ride home from school because I'd be imposing on their parents. Mother went through my trash to make sure I didn't throw out anything important. My mom wouldn't let me open a new milk without her permission or open anything really without it. Like we would have an extra milk in the garage fridge and I would use the rest of the mill inside. Instead of a normal household where you could just get more, I had to call her and ask. So that meant if she didn't pick up then I would have to wait for her to call back. The first time I realized this wasn't normal is when my friend went to open a new gallon of milk and I got super anxious and was like, dude, you have to call your mom right now or she'll freak out. She was like, my mom will be okay if I need a glass of milk. It suddenly clicked that my mom was a control freak. Plot twist. You were kidnapped and she was scared you would find a picture of yourself on the milk and find out. Edit. I never thought that would be my first gold comment. Thank you very much, kind stranger. That I was not allowed to have friends and hang out with classmates because they were worldly or whatever it's called in English. I wish I could have had a more normal childhood without feeling like a traitor all the time for wanting to have friends. Not me, but one of my friends. For context, my friends and I are 23/24. Went over to my friend's house in Long Island a week ago. I don't have my own car yet, so my brother-in-law and sister dropped me off. I moved to a different part of Long Island about a year ago, so I don't have a ride back home like I usually did back when I lived in Queens. Asked my friend, whose house I was at, if he could drop me home. Initially he said yes, but as we were all ready to leave to go home, my friend informs me that his parents have a tracker on him and he can't drop me home. I had no problem taking the train back home, but we were so perplexed when he said it, as if it was normal. I knew his parents were strict and really wouldn't let him go anywhere when we were kids. But holy shit, the fact that he's still subjected to this, to the point where they placed a F-King tracker on him, made me incredibly sad on my way home. Full stop. Your parents are shfeds. The only good thing they did was making you save half your paycheck. They didn't let you express yourself or have an outlet in almost any way. How are you today? This thread just reaffirms my belief that some people shouldn't be parents. I was not allowed to use the money cheat on Sims growing up because that's not how the real world works. I used the cheat once and couldn't explain where all the money I had came from, so I was grounded and had Sims taken away. I had unlimited texting on my cell phone plan, but couldn't go over 100 in a month or I was grounded. Attended church 3 times on Sunday, 9 AM, 11 AM and 7 PM, followed by Bible study Tuesday nights and youth group Friday nights. I can count on one hand the times I missed attending from birth until I moved out at 17. I haven't been back since. Attended church 3 times on Sunday. WTF. I'm 27 years old and still don't know what they expect me to wear on my feet when in the house. Barefoot? Are you trying to catch a cold? Socks? Stop wearing bare socks. You'll wear a hole in them. Shoes? Stop tracking stuff in. Edit. Forgot to add that a few years ago. I gave up on the idea of making them happy in any way. And they gave up on me in turn. So this particular fight hasn't come up in a while. Edit 2. To the people saying house slippers. They shot that down too. Money doesn't grow on trees. We're not buying special shoes just for the house. I had a ton of absurd rules growing up. Too many to just list one. No eating of birthday cupcakes at school. No giving or receiving of birthday presents. No dressing up for Halloween or going trick or treating. No Christmas presents. Must get up every Saturday morning. Put on a full suit and tie no matter the heat. And knock on strangers' doors to try to give them propaganda for a cult. Not allowed to have friends who weren't in said cult. Threatened with disownment if I ever wanted out of said cult. We were never allowed to stay up past our bedtime. Ever. I never saw the end of Grease until I was in high school because my bedtime was 830. Obviously I grew up before VCRS. I think we got one when I was in 6th grade. 4th of July? Block party? Going to a baseball game with friends? Nope. Because of bedtime. When I was 12 I watched the fireworks from my bedroom window. Got caught and got grounded for 2 weeks. Not me, but a friend of mine had TTY foster parents would force him to start his sentences and conversations over if he didn't articulate it perfectly. This led to him having serious stuttering issues along with all the other requirements he had to follow to appear proper according to his foster family. He got out of that family when he turned 18 and doesn't stutter nearly as bad. When I was 17 my parents grounded me and confiscated my savings account. Literally transferring all of the money from my account to theirs. The day I became ungrounded and the money was transferred back, I closed the account and opened a new one with another bank that was not connected to theirs.